Well, I started out, and I don't know if you can see that little house right there. It's a 2-room little tiny house on a dirt road south of Fairdale. That's where I began, and that actually I'm sitting in front of that house. I was a year old, and we were very poor, but we didn't know it. And I was blessed to be able to go to college. I was able to get a scholarship for my associate degree, and then I worked full time and raised my 2 daughters, and also went to school part time. And I just did not give up. I just kept going, and I was determined to get all the education that I could, because I felt that was my way out of poverty, and also to help people. So that's why I've always had the heart to want to help people that perhaps couldn't afford to go to college. And I ended up at my master's at U of L doing my master's degree in nursing, because it was a wonderful, wonderful nursing program. And of course, I love, University of Louisville. I live there and love the area.
So what I was talking about was, what ultimately led you to the University of Louisville. I saw you had a couple stops in Louisville. You were talking about your background and growing up, and then ultimately landing at Louisville and deciding on nursing.
Well, I grew up south of Louisville on a little dirt road, and I don't know if you can see this little 2-room house right here that's in the background. That's where I grew up, and we were very poor. We didn't know it, but we were very, very poor, and the thought of being able to go to school was just a dream. And I was able to get a 2-year degree to start my associate degree. And I continued on raising my daughters, going to school full time. Part time, excuse me. I worked full time and I went to school part time, and then raised my daughters. So sometimes, most of the time, I would just be able to take one class a semester, but I never gave up. And I came from that poor little dirt road 2-room house all the way to finish my master's degree. I love nursing because it helps people, and I really love to help people.
When you think back to your time at U of L, do you have any memories that stand out, or what are some of your fonder memories about your time going through there and becoming a nurse and getting your degree?
Well, I had a wonderful advisor, Dr. Karen Robinson, and I had no one had ever written a thesis or done any research in nursing prior to me working with her. I wanted to do research on spirituality and how people use it to cope because I worked a lot in the critical care unit, and I saw that played out in so many of my patients and their families. And I felt like it really was an important aspect of coping with illnesses that had not had any research. So Dr. Robinson set me up at the emergency room at the university as the clinical chaplain for one of my rotations. And that really helped me to formulate and write my thesis on that. And I did go ahead and do that in my doctoral studies, and actually my dissertation as well as my thesis were both on spirituality as a coping mechanism. And I was really the first one to ever come up with any of that research in nursing. The only research that was done was with the seminaries back then. So I really had a wonderful, wonderful experience at University of Louisville.
And it does. It says right here in your bio that Dr. Kaye was the first nurse to conduct research and publish on spirituality of caregivers. So that's pretty cool when you can be the first to do anything.
That's true. That's
You've
true.
talked a little bit about helping people, and that's why you wanted to, and that's ultimately why you chose nursing. What do you think, you personally, what do you think your greatest skill as a nurse was?
I think it was actually listening and actually hearing what the people were saying, and helping them to find ways to cope, or to help them with what they were experiencing. I did go on to teach nursing for a number of years, so I think that after I finished my PhD, I did teach for a number of years, and I did love and feel like I contributed that way also, in terms of having the skills to teach other nurses.
And what did you think the hardest part of nursing was? Because I mean, it's such a, it can be such a tough profession, and we see it every night on the news now. But I mean, what do you think when you were nursing, what was the hardest aspect?
Well, we did. I worked in the trauma units and the burn units. The burn unit was the hardest for me to work in. And the bone marrow transplant, I took care of some fairly young teenage people. So, having the heart to want to help them, I was so glad to be able to be there with them and their families. But at the same time, it was sometimes hard to lose them, and to see them suffer. But I was so thankful that I could be there at those very difficult times and have the skills to help them with my nursing skills, as well as, with the coping skills. So I was very thankful for that.
Great. No, that's such a tough answer. That I was saying, you see every night on the news, how nurses are on the front lines and how they're, the healthcare heroes now. And but it looks like such a tough profession. If you were advising, somebody that was in your shoes when you were deciding what career path you wanted to go, maybe if there's a young woman or a young man in the Louisville community that's thinking about going into nursing, what kind of advice would you give them?
I would advise them and tell them that it's the greatest profession there is. You're with the patients and the families when everybody else is gone. That the doctors are in and out, the therapists are in and out, and you're there all the time and not in and out. The nurse really, really is the person that makes the most difference in the families and the patient's care. And I was so thankful to be able to have a profession and like that. And I would also advise them to do as I did, get all the education you can, and just don't stop. Just keep going.
That's great. I know that you're not in Louisville anymore. Are you in Georgia now? Is that right?
I'm in Augusta. Augusta,
Oh,
Georgia.
nice.
Mm-hmm.
But I see, we see your red and black and your U of L diploma on
That's right. I got my little pin right there.
Exactly, your cardinal pin. I wanted to ask you, even though you're not living here anymore, in what ways do you still feel connected to the University of Louisville?
Well, I come home every year. The only reason I'm not there this fall is because of the virus. So I do come home every year to visit. And I also have tried to establish the Judy Kaye scholarship that is for someone that can't afford to go. And so I am working on establishing that scholarship. So I feel very connected that way. If someone had not given me scholarship and I had not been able to get funding, I would not have been able to go to school. So I want to help someone else, and that was like myself, that was from a really poor area. And we didn't know we were poor at all, but I used to, my little dresses that I had when I was a little kid was made out of the feed sacks that the cow's food came in. And so, and they were just hand stitched. There wasn't such a thing. We didn't have any sewing machines. So I want to help somebody else that has the heart to want to go forward and make a difference in the world and give to other people and help other people. And I think nursing is the most wonderful opportunity that there is in order to do that, because the nurses are there all the time and the others come and go.
Well, that's a great answer, and thank you for sharing and getting personal with us, because I'm sure it'll make a difference for those that are watching. I do want to be mindful of your time, but I have a couple more questions for you, and then we'll bring everybody back in. If you college is such a cool time, and it's a great time to be on campus, and you learn so much about yourself and about others. But obviously 2020 has been as different of a year as we could ever imagine. What would you say to the current college students on U of L's campus right now, if you could send them a message?
Well, I would say never quit learning. Especially nursing is a profession that is always changing and evolving, and there's always new discoveries and new things to learn. And what a joy to have the opportunity to be in a profession that is always where you can always continually learn. So I would say to continue to get all the education you can, and just always continue to learn.
You have such a fascinating story. I'm in reading your bio. I mean, after your nursing career, it says that you owned and operated 2 IHOP restaurants, and now you have a real estate career with your daughters. I guess my question is, what continues to motivate you? You've had such a successful career. Why do you get out of bed in the morning? What fuels you?
Well, I do have a business, Judy Sells Houses business, that I run now. And I did build 2 IHOP restaurants and used to have 100 employees. Nursing's much easier. And I do love to help people. But I like to continue to help people. So now that I'm not in the nursing and I retired from teaching, I do enjoy helping people with the most important thing that they do own in life, and that is their home. It's so much fun to help first-time home buyers find their first home. It's also the same skills that I used in the critical care units when grandma's passed away and they have to sell the house, and we have to help grandpa adjust to go to a new place. Or perhaps the family crisis is going on because there's a divorce. So I use a lot of the same skills that nursing prepared me for in my current profession. And I still help people, which is what I love to do. So I cannot say how thankful I am to have had the experience of going to University of Louisville to get my master's and to be a nurse. I actually was one of the nurses that started the first bone marrow transplant that was there at University of Louisville. It was a research unit at that time when it very first opened up. So I was blessed to be able to have lots of wonderful experiences of helping people, and that just continues on in helping people now.
That's great. I didn't realize, but as you were talking, there are so many connections, I guess, you know, between nursing and, you know, for somebody that's kind of walked in both paths. I never made that connection, but that's really cool.
Yes, it's very much so. You know, the business part of it is just the details that the CPA takes care of, but I take care of the people, just like I always have. And I just can't thank the people at University of Louisville enough for having had the opportunity to go there, and for reaching out and staying in touch with me. You know, I graduated from a number of other colleges and universities, and I have to give it to you all. You're the only one that has reached out to me and tried to stay in touch with your alumni. So that is another reason that I want to do the scholarship at University of Louisville.
Well, you know, as the executive director here, I love hearing that. So I love hearing that we're doing a good job of staying in touch, because we have so many valuable alumni outside of Louisville that we want to make sure we stay in touch with and that can contribute, and, you know, we make sure that we keep connected with them. That's
right. That's right. And, you know, I know you all normally have the Nightingale event in the fall. And so I'm hoping that in the future, I'll be able to come to that again. You know, I've always loved coming to that event in the fall.
Well, we hope, hopefully this time next year, you're making plans to join us as our guest for that event, and everything has kind of blown over or gone back to normal. I had one more question for you, because I do want to be mindful of your time, but do you have any message, or what would you say to your fellow alumni and your fellow alumni award winners that might be watching?
Well, congratulations on having chosen the University of Louisville and graduating from such a wonderful school, and congratulations on your award. And I hope to be able to meet with you and see you in the future and say congratulations in person.